I don't want you to sit there and tell me what I need. I know what I need.
See, I was the opposite. All the stuff they put together, because it put a picture in my head, and I always felt like gave me an advantage.
I swear to you, Danny, it's the most intense environment I've ever been in my life.
The whole game, everything I did was wrong. I just wanted to get off the pitch.
She was clever though, because she knew I was on a yellow, and she just went down and slammed the ground because she knew.
Would you sell him?
No. And I've seen him being linked to Real Madrid as well, and literally when I saw it this morning, I wanted to cry. So we're back again for another episode of Two Touch on DAZN. I'm with Danny Simpson, a good friend of mine, former United player, and that's why I loved you when I first met you. Some might say we're like brother and sister. We agree on some things, we disagree, but Danny, it's another top show coming up.
And I'm here with my sister, Leanne Sanderson, England international, superstar. We always have a lot of debates, so I'm looking forward to this week because a lot of things have happened.
All right, here we go. First round, this is opening whistle. Now, our last two shows, we got a bit fiery. We sometimes agree, Danny. We sometimes disagree. But what's our first topic this week, Dan?
So the topic this week is the era of Champions League dominance over? Will another team do what Real Madrid did between 2016 and 2018 ever again?
I think when you look back on this Real Madrid side, you know, especially last season, Jude Bellingham in his first year, winning the Champions League at Wembley, you know, on his home turf, doesn't really get much bigger than that. Luka Modric, you know, still, he's 39 now, right? Yeah. He's nearly pushing 40. Like, he's still unbelievable. You know, people talk about, you know, you lose your legs, but if you still got it up here, I think he's proof in the pudding. But I think there's a reason why teams don't really win it back to back. Because, again, going back to our first episode, I said it was harder to win the Champions League than it is the league.
We're going back there. I keep changing my mind. I'll change my mind with this, so I'll listen to your points, and I want to come on to some. Is obviously that Real Madrid team was elite. You know, when you've got Ramos, Varane at their peak, you know, Casemiro, midfield, Casemiro, Modric, Cruz, and then the front three, Bale, Benzema and Ronaldo. And then we're not even mentioning fullbacks, Marcelo, one of the best fullbacks we've ever seen. So, and Carvajal. So I look at Real Madrid now, and I think they've got a nucleus to maybe do that again. Obviously, it looks like they're signing Trent, but I still feel like they need a big centre-back in there. And I think when you've got Vinicius and Mbappe, you don't really run. I feel like in midfield you need legs. So I think you need, you know, a Kante, a Makelele, you can just do all that work for other players.
Well, that's what, when Makelele was there back in the day, that's what he used to do, wasn't it, before he signed for Chelsea. So, you know, I agree, the points you're making are brilliant, because you look at this team and you look at it now, you look at players like Camavinga that they have now, top player, but I don't think they know where they want to play him. At times they're playing him in the fullback position, in times they're playing him in the midfield. So I think you look at that team, it's hard to replicate that team, isn't it? You look at Ramos, like you say, Varane. It's interesting because Man United signed Varane and Casemiro when they were like almost not past their peak, because I think Casemiro's been unbelievable this second part of the season lately. But I think, you know, you look at that Real Madrid side, I think it will be hard for them to replicate that. But I do think Mbappe, Vinny Jr., like those types of players with Jude Bellingham, I think they'll be back. Even in the FIFA Club World Cup, I think they're going to want to lay down a statement, because they didn't win the Champions League this year. They haven't had the most successful. But Mbappe is still banging in goals.
Yeah, well, do you think, when I look at, so listen, we know what we think of Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, we could do like a 5-hour show on that.
Yeah, but like, I feel like Ronaldo and Bale, they had big moments. Do you think Vinicius and Mbappe, listen, for as good as they are, can they have them consistent big moments, big performances like, look, Bale in the Champions League final, Ronaldo, we know what he does. We're not even mentioning Benzema. I just don't know. Obviously, I think Jude can. We've seen Jude do it. I just don't know. I don't know if... Well,
if Mbappe can score a hat-trick in a World Cup final, then he can do it. But I don't like the fact that there's this, like, almost like people call it the Mbappe curse. Do you know what I mean? Because when he was at PSG, they didn't win. When he goes to Real Madrid, they didn't win. But he's actually, like, an unbelievable player. I think when you look at world class, I think Mbappe is in that elite. I like Vinny Jr., and I think he's held to a little bit of a different standard to like what the other players are. You know, like, you know, there's been a lot of times when he's been racially abused in Spain and he seems to get the brunt end of it. It's like no one really supports him, and I don't like that type of thing. So I think they are big game players, but I know what you're saying. Like, I think Mbappe has that in him. And you talk about Gareth Bale and Cristiano Ronaldo, they're the types of players, like, they might be quiet at times, but then they pick their moments.
Bang, Well, that's it. Yeah, I think the more I don't think we will see that again. Like you said, it is hard to win the Champions League, But to do it, was it 5-8 actually? Was it Real Madrid?
Something like that, yeah.
So I don't think we'll see that again. I think that the level is getting better. We're looking at the moment. Inter Milan are going to be in the final twice in 3 years with, I wouldn't say a world-class team. So I just think sometimes, if you get a good run, I think that can spoil, what Real Madrid did do.
If there was a team that I thought would have come close to what Real Madrid did during those moments, was Manchester City. Before this season, the dominance was there, treble winning season, doing amazing things. And then this year, like, if you'd have told me at this point of the time, Kyle Walker would have been playing in Italy, Cancelo went last year, Kevin De Bruyne has announced that he's leaving. It just seems like the wheels have fallen off, doesn't it? And it just doesn't. I've never seen a team kind of like decline in a way, but I have no doubt they'll be back next year. What do you think?
Nah, I agree. I don't think we ever saw what was going to happen, especially with a Pep team. But I think you just mentioned there, like, players are getting older. What they've done for the last 3 or 4 years has been nothing short of incredible. To perform like that at that elite level, that much consistently for 3 or 4 years is unbelievable. And I think it has caught up with some players. Nothing against him, but Kyle's getting older. Kyle got older. He's obviously left. Kevin De Bruyne, as good as he's been recently, he's obviously
had a lot of injuries.
I think Bernardo doesn't really get about the pitch like he used to. And he used to, like, for me, I used to love him because he used to rat around and win the ball back. Obviously, they brought Gundogan back.
Phil Foden. I love Phil Foden, but he's not had his best season.
He's not. So I know we've got Haaland up front, who's obviously the main man. But I think they're probably going to have to... This summer's a big summer.
If we have 2 players, N'Golo Kante that you're at Leicester with, and Rodri, which one do you think is better and why?
Bias and all that. Obviously, I think I'm going to say Kante. Just because what he came into our team, and the size of him, we didn't know what to expect, right? And he was just training as he was, and then he just played this one game, and we were like, who's this guy?
In a friendly or in a game?
No, he was in a game. Oh. He were in a team at the start, and he played in a proper game. I think he played out wide first, and he came in, and we were just like, he was just getting about the pitch. Like, it was like, he could like bend you understand this, like he could bend his leg round people's legs to win the ball back. And I think when to come to Leicester and help us win the league, and then to go to Chelsea and do it, I think he's won everything. Now obviously Rodri's a completely opposite, he's 6 foot plus, Kante's obviously small. He's probably better on the ball. Even though when he went to Chelsea, I think we've seen how good he was on the ball when he played higher up. But I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what the guys say back home watching this, because obviously for me, I'm going to say Kante. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's similar to Makelele. I mean, it became the Makelele position because that's how iconic Makelele is and was. But I think when you look at both of them, the reason why I ask you as well is because I think it's a topic of conversation. Yeah. Because both of them, I'm a number 10, right? And if I have a good CDM, it makes me look good. Yeah. Someone that does all the dirty work for me. I was never the best at tackling. I was never the best defensively. You don't want me back there. That's the reality, right? But if I had somebody that would do that dirty work positionally, where, and I know you'll understand, it's like where the ball just hits them because they're always in the right position. Yeah. Michael Carrick was good at that as well. Do you know what I mean? Because people think, what do you mean if they just stand there? No, it's a positional thing. And it reminds me of our conversation last week as well, what you said about the putting up of the socks, the shirts tucked in. Like Rodri is like an old school footballer. I don't think he has any social media.
No,
and then, you look at Kante, like, I think a lot of people liked him off the pitch. He drove a Mini Cooper. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I think, everybody kind of, he was quite relatable.
It's humble.
So, yeah, I mean, if I was to choose out of the 2, I think I'd go with Kante, to be fair.
But then who would you want threading the ball to you?
Rodri. So, we can't decide. You guys let us know in the comments what you think. Round 2, the mix zone. The question we are asking each other, are players now playing too many games, and is it impacting the quality of the performances on the pitch? Danny, you've been there yourself, as a player. I think psychologically, mentally and physically, not only when you were pushing for titles, but like how much of an impact does that have on you? Like when you're kind of getting back from a trip, like I was talking about the Arsenal women, they got back from a trip on the Monday and played on the Wednesday at Villa. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, isn't it, mentally?
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, it's what you want. I wish towards the end of the seasons I had more opportunities to be in that position where you're going for FA Cups, Champions League, you're fighting for Europe, you're fighting for titles. You know, after we won the league, you know, we was in the Champions League and obviously the league, and we found that difficult, just them two. But what if you ask any of the players, we miss it. You know,
like Newcastle and Villa then?
Yeah.
Would you say? Like, 100%. Sometimes it seems a step too far because of the squad depth. You know, you can't really rotate because you don't have a deep squad like a City or a Chelsea.
It's interesting because I remember when we won the league and I saw Ryan Giggs like at an event, whether it was at the end of that season or the start of the season, and he said to me, he's going to be tough. You're going to find it tough playing Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, what it is, because we're not used to it. Like the year before, we just had Saturday games. We had Sunday off, Wednesday off. We had a full week to prepare for games. And I think United, he said the first few years they struggled in Europe. Obviously, that's when Giggsy came through. And I think it takes a bit of time to adapt to that and adjust to it. And I think that you're right there with Newcastle and Villa, because to keep going again every 3 days is tough. And it was the travelling for me, getting back on a Wednesday night or a Thursday morning, having to then turn that around to play on a Saturday away. And sometimes, a lot of the times, I feel like teams play away at the weekend when you want to play at home that weekend. So,
well, last Jurgen Klopp, I mean, he obviously spoke a lot when he was at Liverpool about 12:30 kickoffs on a Saturday when they just played on a Wednesday or Thursday away. Like, and I agree with you, Dan. It's like, it is what you want as a player. And I personally loved playing midweek games because we never really got any days off when in the women's game. For some reason, we never. I used to see the blokes. I used to think, hold on, they've got recovery. Like, they played on the Saturday and they're still recovering on Monday, whereas ours was like constant. So I feel like, you know, I used to love when we had games because it meant we didn't train as much. I love training, but it, like, you're looking forward to a game, your preparation, you know, and I loved playing in games.
Did you recover? How was your recovery?
Well, depending on which team I was playing on, at Juventus, it was crazy.
Really good?
Like, no, I wouldn't say.
I would have Italians would have been.
Yeah, they were. I signed for Juventus, and again, I'm so grateful because they signed me when I was injured. But I thought I'd go there, had this ACL injury, recover from it and see how my body feels in order to kind of see where I'm at. And the misconception is Italian football is slow. I swear to you, Danny, it's the most intense environment I've ever been in my life. It was unbelievable. Like, I was talking to Patrice Evra about it. Like, I was running the same fitness testing as Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? And we'd do this thing called a Monioni test where they'd prick out ears to check the blood.
Yes.
And I'm like, we did the same fitness testing and I'm thinking, what is this? Like, and to be fair, like, a lot of players were getting injured because our bodies couldn't handle it. So I thought Italy was probably the most intense environment I've ever been in. And I know a lot of people that are watching this that maybe played in Italy will say the same thing. I didn't think the recovery strategies, like, for me, rest and recovery and sleep is just as important as the training. And there's a fine line. Like, sometimes I would run fitness testing and I'd feel shattered. Because one time I remember I did really not great on the fitness testing, but I played on the Saturday. We did fitness testing on Monday.
That's not the time.
Exactly.
That's not the time.
And I said to them, well, I've just run, like, literally in the game, I've run nearly 10 miles in that game. And I was one of the highest, like...
Did you say anything?
Yeah, I did. But then again...
Comes back.
What do you think happens when I say anything? They're like, you're causing problems. I'm not trying to cause problems, but I'm trying to protect myself. Look at the stats that you're giving me, saying, oh, you know, you've run the most, you've covered this amount of ground. How am I supposed to then go to fitness testing on the Monday and be fresh?
But would you say to them, we don't do this in England?
Not particularly, because that wouldn't go down too well in Italy.
Yeah, that's true.
That is the worst thing you can do. But I would speak to my captain and say, you know, this is X, Y, and Z, and they would just be like, no, we don't. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like you should be seen and not heard.
No, but I think you're right, though, with the recovery. I think, I said before, one of my best days. I used to love it if, obviously, we played on a Saturday, coming on a Monday, and it's a nice recovery day. I actually enjoyed that side of it because I knew how important it was. And obviously, the older you get, the more important it is. And I don't think, when you're young, I think you can get away with it.
You can.
But then I think, you know, people like Ronaldo, etc., you know, the recovery that they do at home. Even Jamie Vardy, I think we've heard recently, you know, he's 38 now. I think he's got a cryotherapy at home. You know, little things that I never thought Jamie would do.
Why don't all the footballers have this, though, Danny? Because they can afford it. Like, you know, people talk about, oh, you know, Ronaldo, because his house looks unbelievable with the pool and the jacuzzi and all that recovery stuff. But, like, if I was in that position, I would have it all. Yeah,
I think, sure, just to touch on that, I think one player I believe has got all of that is Ilanga. Apparently at home he's got everything. that recovery. But no, I don't know why they don't. I think a lot of it is at the training ground, but like for me, Jamie likes to do it at home. You get the training ground that much, sometimes you just want to get out of there. So, it is a good question that why players don't have that more. Surprising me.
Because I'd have my home chef. Like, I've seen a lot of players now having a chef.
Yeah,
and I would have that all day long. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, we had that though at Leicester. But then that came, I got that because of Kasper Schmeichel. I was like, Kasper was doing it. So I thought, if Kasper's doing it, I'd do it. So the guy would go to Kasper's and then he'd come to mine straight after. But no, I think it's, to play at that elite level now, I think you have to go that extra mile and spend money on them things to be the best. I think we mentioned before, like your Aston Villas, your Newcastles, because they're not used to it compared to like the top teams. What do you think them teams or managers or sports science as a group need to do to be able to handle, that level of playing back-to-back every week, Wednesday, Saturday?
I think it also depends on the managers. I think, Emery has done it many, many times before in Europe, and he's been really successful. I think Eddie Howe, obviously he's been at Bournemouth previously. I love Eddie Howe. I wanted him to be the next England manager. Genuinely, I think he's top. But I think you look at the squad depth, and it's easy to say, go out and buy players. I think Emery tried to do that in the transfer window. You got Asensio and Rashford on a free. I know Rashford's on loan, but like Asensio was on a free, wasn't he? You look at these players, you look at the recruitment, but I think you look at the players individually, are these players used to playing those types of games? But the intensity of it, it's not even just the games, it's the intensity of it. Because I've seen a lot of people turn around and say, why can't these players play 3 games a week? They're getting paid all that money. It doesn't work like that. No. Like, we're all from the same place, you know what I mean? Like, yes, you can be fit, but it's like the psychological part and the mental fatigue playing in these games. So my answer to that question would be, recruit. But I think for clubs like Villa and Newcastle, these experiences they've had, especially for Aston Villa in Europe this year, I think will help them going forward for next year based upon that experience. Because look at them against PSG in the second half. They were good, Aston Villa. And it's about peaking at the right time as well.
So do you think you recruit players that are used to that rather than maybe players that haven't been used to that? So you go and get your Asensios, your Rashfords, because that's what they know how to do that. And 100%. They're used to it. So rather than... So. Maybe like with us, when we were with Leicester, we weren't used to it, and I don't think we really signed anyone that was used to it to like actually help us, deal with that. So I think that's a good point, like and signing players that are genuinely used to it mentally and physically.
Yeah, it's difficult as well because when you've won the league like you did at Leicester, you don't want to upset that dynamic, do you? Because we've seen what that did at Aston Villa this year. Ollie Watkins got benched for the Champions League, and I don't necessarily agree with that. So it can upset. There's one hand you want to, increase the quality in players, but then on the other hand, Ollie Watkins probably wants to leave. Not just based upon that, but he's probably thinking, the manager has brought in these players that are on loan. We don't even know if they're going to be here next year. Yeah,
but then again, that comes down to man management because Sir Alex would swap. He knew how to manage players. Like, you're not going to play this week, but you're going to be ready for that game. I think with Leicester in that Champions League campaign, I think Claudio, because the year before we had a settled team and we had the same subs every Saturday. Everyone knew the subs that we were going to do. But then I think the man management side of it was what maybe ruined it for us because he wasn't letting players know this is why you're not playing. It wasn't, and the communication wasn't there. So I think man management is key.
Let us know in the comments what you think. Are the teams playing too many games? Are we seeing that impact the type of games we're seeing and individual performances? Let us know in the comments.
In this segment, we're going to be given some hot topics. If we disagree, it's a red card. If we're not too sure, it goes to VAR. And if we agree, then it's a tapping.
Arsenal's draw-heavy run shows they're not ready to be champions.
Tapping.
Ooh. You go first, because you're saying they're bottlers.
I just don't think they're ready to be champions. I think they've lost. No, they've not. I think Newcastle or Man City have won more games than them this season.
Drawn so many, haven't they?
Drawn too many. You can't draw that many games and believe that you should be challenging for the title. Listen, Liverpool have been fantastic, but I think this season, yes, it is tough on the players. I know they've had injuries, but I do genuinely think that when you draw that many games, you shouldn't be considering yourselves as title challengers.
Yeah, the reason why I've gone to VAR is because the last 2 seasons, they've come so close, and I genuinely think this year will come back and they'll regret it in the sense that they're not going to get a better time to win the title. Everyone expected it to be Arsenal's this year.
Players to train at the stadium the day before a match, not the training ground.
Tapping.
Tap, 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 tap.
Go on then, because I like this question, so I'll let you go.
Well, it made me think yesterday, because when I was at the Arsenal training ground, I saw the players were training, the men were training on the pitch, and I thought, oh, that's, it's a new kind of thing where, and I'm pretty sure the players do decide if that's what they want to do. But for me, I always felt like training at the stadium the day before a big game, it just was, I was able to visualize. It made me feel like you could take in the stadium. Yeah. I don't know, I know that there's different restrictions because you only have an hour from when you enter into the stadium, when you're putting your boots on, everyone's being rushed. But I do think training at the stadium is so good for visualization.
Yeah, no, I agree, because my first memories was coming through at Man United and going with the first team and, getting to train at these stadiums. I was training at Roma, the night before, and I was like, I'm a kid. I'm like, wow, look where I am. And obviously later on in my career, where with Leicester and going to Seville and Atletico Madrid, I think the importance for me, just like you said, visualising the night before where I'm going to be in the pitch. What's the pitch like? Is it fast? Is it slow? And being in the dressing room rather than just turning up on the night of the game. So I think for me, it was massively important to just put myself in the right frame of mind before the night before the game.
Ruben Amorim is not the right man to take United back to the Champions League.
Wow, four times in a row. We've agreed.
No, I love him.
Go first?
I love him.
Oh, I do as well.
Like what? For me, obviously, I've been around Carrington and stuff, and yes, the results haven't been what we want in the Premier League, and it's crazy to think that we are where we are in the Premier League in the position. But what he's doing around the club, what's off the pitch, is changing the culture, changing the mentality. And obviously, he's not really had his chance to bring his own players in yet. And I actually genuinely believe, is he 39? He might have just turned 40. I genuinely believe he is the right man to take us. I really believe he's going to take us to the Europa League final and win that. And I think next season, we're going to see such a massive improvement from everyone at the club. And so, yeah, I think he is the right man.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ruben, I kept saying it before, I think right manager, wrong timing. I wish he had the budget that Eric Ten Hag was given, because I agree with you. If he can bring in his own players, and Manchester United do go on to win the Europa League, they have to go through the preliminary round of the Champions League, but it will enable them to have more money. I don't like the idea that they potentially have to sell Garnacho or Kobe Mainu to be able to, function alongside PSR. But I like Ruben. And when I met him, I think he's got this aura about him. He's very respectful. The only time I feel like he got it wrong was against Lyon, when he brought on Kobe Mainu and put him in the 9. And it wasn't because we didn't have anybody else. Yeah. It worked out well in the end, but we could have been, not in this position we are. I love Ruben.
I've got one quick question for you. I've seen reports Bruno could go to Saudi, because I seen it today, actually.
I know.
And, 150, 160 million. He's 31, is he now? Would you sell him?
No. And I've seen him being linked to Real Madrid as well. And literally, when I saw it this morning, I wanted to cry. Similar to David Beckham, not the same levels, but I love Bruno Fernandes. And that's a whole nother topic in itself that I don't think people give him. And he should be up for PFA Player of the Year. Whether he is or not is another story. But he is for me, if it wasn't for Bruno, I love him. And people don't give him enough praise anywhere near the levels he should be getting.
Kevin De Bruyne leaves Man City as the best Premier League midfielder ever.
What's happening today?
I know. I mean, for me, I think it's really difficult to compare. It's like comparing Lionel Messi to Diego Maradona, right? I think it's going to take a lot for anybody to overcome what Lampard, Gerrard, Scalzi, they are the three that everybody always talks about. And I think for Kevin De Bruyne, Declan Rice, those types of players, it is always going to be difficult. But for me, he's definitely up there. The way he plays, the way he can break the lines of his pass, he's because now people suffer with recentism and forget all the things that he's done. I mean, that guy has peripheral vision. He can see passes 3 or 4 passes ahead, on a completely different level. And you know how much I love United, but I have to give credit where it's due at City, as much as it pains me to say it, because when they were in free flow like they were with Kevin De Bruyne in there, he's on a different level.
Yeah, I agree. There's this debate. I don't think there's a clear, winner. There's a clear winner. You say Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes. I think on a different day you'll get a different answer.
From either of us as well.
From either of us and top players. I had Wayne Rooney the other day, and he was a bit unsure where to place them. And I think on a different day, listen, De Bruyne, I played against these, I played against them. What he's done is unbelievable. You know, I used to play at fullback, and I think you're not going to put that in there, and he'd just whip the ball and into an area and I thought, I don't know how he's just put that there. It's like it's like he's playing a computer game.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, I'm sad to see him leave for the Premier League. I'm happy that he's leaving because it's Man City. It'd be interesting to see where he goes. But yeah, I think he'll be up there with the rest of them for the rest of the Premier League days. Was
it the right move for Harry Kane to go to Bayern?
Tap in. Then I keep tapping the chair.
Red.
Ooh, go on.
I just wish, one, he went to Man United, or two, even if he stayed in the Premier League. I just wish, I don't know, with the Premier League record, chasing Shearer, just that stage, like 260 goals, Alan Shearer, like that's wild. And I just think, say he did go to United, I think he would have won trophies. And then he still would have been on course for the most Premier League goals ever. And I don't think anyone will come close to that again. So yeah, that's why I put a red card.
I mean, I put a tap in because I think at that moment in time, it was he needed to leave Tottenham. You know, given everything, the club still was in the position they're in. There were elements when Ange Postecoglou first came in that looked like Tottenham. Remember, they were top of the league, and they were flying, weren't they, when Ange first came in? And I'm sure Harry Kane was thinking, oh, maybe I should have given it another season. But he's now gone to Bayern. He's been banging in goals last season as soon as he got there, banging in goals this year. He's got, you know, why do English players have to play in England? Do you know what I mean? Like Jude Bellingham, we've seen. Jadon Sancho when he was at Dortmund. Like, I think we have this, because we want to see Harry Kane playing in the Premier League. And I agree with you. I think he'll come back, and I think he will want that record. I think that's probably more in the back of his mind than probably winning trophies. Not that he's a selfish player, because he's not. But do you get what I mean? Like, I agree with you. It's not gonna be recreated again. But at the same time, I just think he's gone to one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Yeah, listen, I don't think he should have stayed at Tottenham, but I just think Man United, Harry Kane at that time was just the perfect fit, and I think I would have loved to have seen that happen for both. Harry Kane to stay in the Premier League, Man United to have that 9 that we've wanted, that you guarantee 25, 30 goals. So for me, I would just love to have seen that.
And now moving on to the hat trick, where me and Danny are going to share what it's like to be a real life footballer behind the scenes, and a lot of stories you haven't heard before.
What's something fans never see about the build up to a huge game?
Do you know what I like about this question is that sometimes, like, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that do so much. And now that I've retired and not playing, and I get to the games when I'm working, I'm like, wow. Like, all of the stewards that are lining up to get into the games, the kit manager setting out your kit, everything's done for you, isn't it? I think even more for the men than it was for the women. Like, it was only up until recently. Do you know we never used to get our kit washed? That's only a thing that's happened in the last, maybe 8-9 years. Like, we used to have to take our kit home and wash it.
So you didn't even have someone else at the training ground that could just do the kit separately or later on in the afternoon after the men's kit?
We weren't even at the training ground 9 times out of 10, apart from when I was at Arsenal. So it was only like a new thing that got brought in. So when I used to see all you lot in your little Louis Vuitton toiletry bags and all that, we'd have to bring all of our stuff. And I'm thinking, where's all their stuff?
Bag.
So, yeah.
Nah, I think I didn't know about that. So that's interesting. But I think for me, fans don't see the work on the training pitch. Which obviously they're not going to, but like the level of detail, the tactics of who you're going to play against. So obviously we know if you're not in the starting 11, then the second 11 is the ones that are not playing, and sometimes you're annoyed you're not playing or you're not starting, but you have to obviously then.
And that's okay as well. Can I just say, like, I don't like it when people say, like, I hated it when the coach would say to us, like, the team in front of everyone, like the day of the game, because you don't have a chance to, deal with your own head and be there for your teammates. Whereas the night before, you can go back to your room, speak to your family, be in your fields. You know what I mean? Whereas, I don't know, I just think some coaches get that wrong.
No, I do. I think you'd rather an all day before. Then again, like, even like being in the room and in the classroom, if you want to say, and doing all the analysis and all the work, like you said, that the staff do, like they watch hours and hours of videos. And when I did a little bit of coaching at United, I didn't appreciate them as much, like you just said, as much as I should have at the time. But then I seen it afterwards, and we get given an 8-minute clip of the team playing against, and then it took people hours to do for us to get the best out of us. So I think there's a lot of that. Fans at home don't see what goes on in and around the training ground from staff.
And it isn't as simple as when you hear after games and you people talking pubs and all that, they say, why was he playing? Why was she playing? They should play. It isn't as simple as that. And when I've been in the presence of managers like, Steve McLaren, Mauricio Pochettino, when they talk about football, the way they tactically break down the game, it's so, if I was coaching in a game, I would say I'd be like FIFA, where I'd have all 11 being attackers. I would be thinking about if I give away the ball, whereas it's like now it's almost become too overcoached, where if you give away the ball, you have to have an answer for everything. Yeah. So I don't think fans fully understand, I agree with you, the detail, the attention to detail. I don't know if you were the type of player that I did not like analysis all the time. All the time. I like myself to be able to watch it back, but constantly being in a meeting, other teams used to take the mick out of us when we'd be away with England back in the day, because they'd be like, what you lot up to again? Another meeting. It'll be a meeting about a meeting about a meeting. And I like to let them worry about me individually. I understand team analysis, but I don't want to know all the strengths of this person. And I liked when we had different coaches come in and they allowed me to say, I need this and I need that. I don't want you to sit there and tell me what I need. I know what I need.
See, I was the opposite. I loved it.
Do you think it's positional though?
Because you're a defender? Because I obviously play against a winger, and I'd like to know 90% of the things he would do, so that it was already in my head when I'm defending him. So I listen before a kick-off, I get getting a massage in hour and a half before kick-off, and I'd just be watching the clips, just constant clips, watching all the stuff they put together, because it put a picture in my head, and I always felt that gave me an advantage over who I'm playing against, rather than going in a bit cold.
Do you think? I do think it's positional, though,
yeah,
because I used to watch videos of myself. Not because I'm self-centered, but because I then needed, if I was going through a stage where I might not be performing to the levels I want to, I'd watch myself to kind of think, I want them to worry about me. This is what you can do, Leanne.
But then would say you was playing against a centre-back, would you not think he doesn't deal with low crosses very well? So, or, I need to run across him, or I need to peel off him because he's not quick, his feet are not quick enough. Did you ever analyse it in that way? Or
not particularly.
You said you're just worried about yourself?
No, because I feel like I always had an answer. Now, I'm not saying I'm Kevin De Bruyne, but you know how he always has an answer for something where, you talk about the different weight of passes that he has outside of foot. That's how I feel like I was. I was quite instinctive as a player. And I was not off the cuff. Everything I did, I visualised every single night before a game, all the time. That was my way of preparing for games. But I do think sometimes, I've had coaches that will overcoach, and by the time you get to the game, you're exhausted because it's just an information overload. And I don't like all that. I used to think, let them worry about me individually. Team stuff, 100%, I'm all in for.
Who's the one unexpected player you hated playing against and rated highly?
It will surprise people at home, maybe not Liverpool fans, but for me it was Coutinho. Now, there was a period where he was, obviously before he went to Barcelona, and he was on absolute fire for Liverpool. And, people talk about fullbacks and wingers, and I've mentioned a lot about battles, 1v1s, but I hated going to Anfield as it is, because it's so hostile, and I'd get stick, and it was always tough. I don't think it's the only place probably I never won a game, but he would then drop into little pockets, as a left winger, I wouldn't say even as a 10, and it was like, do I go in? Do I not? And literally, the whole game, everything I did was wrong.
You're second guessing yourself.
Yeah, and it was literally, I just wanted to get off the pitch. Honestly, I never forget it. It was like, I'm looking at the clock at Anfield, and I'm just like, he's got me here. He's got my number. I was trying to get people to help me, and I think, yes, and you talk about Hazard and Bale and all these players, but I just think, for me, I just remember that specific game where I just didn't know what to do. I didn't have any answers, and I went home, in a bit of a mess.
Do you know what, though? On the flip side, I've been that player where I've heard the defenders arguing about me, because I used to love playing between the lines, and some managers liked me having a free role, some managers didn't. It wasn't for everybody, but I think I was able to find the spaces. So what you're saying about when Coutinho used to drop in, I'm not saying I'm Coutinho, but I'm saying that's the type of stuff, and the central defensive midfielder would be like, well, why are you not taking on? The defender's like, well, I don't know whether to go or not. So I've been in that position on the flip side of that, and it's interesting because when you talk about Coutinho, another player that I think for the men's is Alexis Sanchez. When he was at Arsenal, I think he was, along with Hazard, the best in the world at that point. But I think for me, Jess Fishlock, playing against her, never been a teammate. I got my only red card I've ever had, second yellow, when she went down against her. She was clever though, because she knew I was on a yellow. First one was for dissent, which they gave an offside. Second one was for, like, you know, when you kind of leave your foot in, but you don't, like, you follow through. And she just went down and slammed the ground because she knew.
Made a big finger out of it.
Which is fine. It is what it is. But I only had that one red card in my career. But I always say to her when I speak to her in an interview, I'm like, you are so annoying to play against, because her engine is incredible. And she's one of those players that you just know that she's not going to give you a moment to breathe. So, Danny, we've got to talk about this Champions League. I mean, I thought the Man United-Lyon game the other week was the best game I'd seen this season, and one of the best games I've ever done live at the stadium. Now, Inter Milan, Barcelona, the first leg, 3-3. Second leg, unbelievable. Like, you didn't want the game to end.
No, and all I can say is thank you to them two teams, because football, apart from, like you said, Man United and Lyon, I think we've said on this show, it's been a bit boring. And honestly, how these two teams and the players and the mentality and the managers, you've seen the managers on the sideline, and, you know, Inzaghi, he's soaking and all, you know, and I just think that's what we want to see. You know, that's passion, that's football, attacks. You score, we can score. You know, never say die. Allow to the finish. You know, for the equaliser with 2 minutes to go from, I think it's a Serbia, if I'm right in saying. You know, use a striker. You know, to score from there I thought was amazing. And listen, over them two legs, honestly, thank you for them players and them teams for, you know, giving us such a spectacle. Probably the best semi-finals we've seen in the Champions League. And yeah, I just, you know, we want to see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some players that are real standouts. I mean, apart from Lamine Yamal in the first leg, but I think Dumfries in both legs, you know, 2 assists, 2 goals and an assist in the game. And then you look at the players, Mkhitaryan, you know, 2 Champions League finals in the last 3 years. And this is a player that was at Man United. I loved him when he first came. We even had the song for him, you know. But, like, he's now in another final. And the quality, you know, Marcus Thuram, I thought was one of the best players on the pitch. And then when they were 2-0 up, though, I messaged my dad. I messaged you as well. And I was like, what a game. But, like, 2-0 up, I said to my dad, I think Barca can come back into this game. And then they did. Eric Garcia, what a finish that was. But credit to Sommer, the goalkeeper, because he was unbelievable.
That save, was it from Yamal at the end, and then one at the end when he tipped it on the post. Now, but I think over the 2 legs, he's not just his shot stopping, but even with the ball at his feet, I think he's why he's one of the top keepers, and they owe a lot to him. But you just mentioned Mkhitaryan, and we've got Darmian as well. Like, this is 2, you know, old United players that are, you know, are playing at that level, and I just don't understand why sometimes they're going to be players that leave United and they're going to other clubs, and, you know, they're getting into European Cup finals.
Anthony's stats apparently have been better than Vinny Jr.'s since he went to Real Betis. So
yeah, I don't know what it is.
But then again, I just think sometimes it doesn't. The Mkhitaryan one's quite weird, because when he was at United originally, he was doing really well, and we haven't really had a 10 since, to be fair, that occupies that space. And he was so good getting assists, and I thought, oh, okay, here we go. You know, when Kagawa came in, I thought that was a situation. When Juan Mata came, I thought, okay, we've got a 10. But, like, Mkhitaryan, I think, was excellent over the 2 legs. And he kind of goes under the radar.
He was, and he was lucky not to give... it weren't a penalty for me, but he was lucky that he went for that. But, I think honestly, for them teams and, you know, over the 2 legs, I thought that's what we want to see from football, and I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's how football should be played. And I saw someone say it was like chaotic, but not in a bad way. You know, it was just football. It was like kind of like, and I've noticed in Europe that the officials are much better, in a way. Like I've always thought that. I'm like, do you notice that we talk about the football as opposed to the VAR decisions? And that decision you talk about, like that was outside the box. It was obviously a foul on Lamine Yamal, but Lamine Yamal actually should have scored at the end of the game before it went to extra time. I think his legs just went, and fair, you know, that happens. But he'll look back on that. And Eric Garcia, the one when Sommer, you know, when he missed it, and that would have been game over.
But do you think... I thought that was a foul for the build-up to the 3rd goal to make it 3-3 2 minutes before.
I think they thought that as well.
On the fullback. And the defender. And I genuinely... For me, it was a foul. And I think if the referee would have blew his whistle then, I don't think that at the end of the game they complain about that. I think it's one of them that you get. So yeah, I know it's, but obviously fair play to Inter, and you know what they've done over the last few years is credit to them.
And I think as well, there's some incredible stories. It goes to show you, like, you can have all the individuals you want, but if you have a team, like Simeone Inzaghi has done an incredible job. You mentioned him, like, soaking wet in his suit on the side. He's so animated. Yeah. And then you got the centre-back that's 37 years old coming up with the goal at the end. Like, it was almost like the script was torn up. And it was football, wasn't it? How we like football to be. And I hope we start to see, you know, more games like that.
I actually said last week.
Yeah, you did.
I actually said last week, if it goes to extra time, is that fair on Barcelona? Because Inter Milan are going to get an extra 30 minutes at home with their crowd. And I think that's an advantage for them, rather than I was saying it should go to penalties. Yes, I know as a spectacle we want to see more football, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about that extra time at home, getting an extra 30 minutes.
I still feel the same, because it's based upon how well you do in the group, and it's the seeding. That's the reality. Like, that's how it works. Let us know what you think.
Yes, please do. Because I'm all over the place with that one.
So, Danny, that's it for this week. We've given the red card. We've given the tap-in, the VAR, you know, Champions League. It's just a really exciting time for football. And it's been another great show.
No, it has. And like I said, and people back home, if they can comment and let us know what they think about all the topics that we spoke about. And obviously we appreciate that, and we're looking forward to hearing that.
And also Harry Kane to Man United. I want to hear what people think about that.